Okay, here we are. Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. I'm Larissa, and we are reading The Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius, and we are continuing with part 2 of Book 4. We'll see if we get through the whole thing or not. Book 4 is a little bit longer than the other ones. Metron Five. The man who can neither grasp the gliding of Arcturus's star near heaven's highest pole, nor understand why Boethius slowly tracks his wagon, is late to dip his flame into the sea, even though his rising soon unfolds. The laws of heaven will stun his mind. Let the full moon's horns pale, covered by night's dark, and let Phoebe, dimmed, reveal the stars, once hidden by her shining face, and man's confusion shakes the nations as gongs tire with constant blows. Northwest winds blasts, hammering shores with waves, and snow's hard mass, freed by Phoebus's heat, frightens no one, for the causes are easy to see. Hidden things trouble men's hearts, things rare and sudden strike fear, but even these will cease to astound when the clouds of unknowing melt away. 6. So it is, I said, but since your role, to disclose the reasons behind things that are hidden, and to uncover explanations clouded in mists, I beg you to tell me fully the relations you find for this marvel, since it disturbs me greatly. Then she gave a little smile and said, You're asking me to deal with the greatest question of all, one that can hardly be exhausted fully. It's the kind of subject where countless uncertainties arise like the heads of a hydra, when one question is laid to rest, and there's no way to deal with them unless someone sears them back with the most lively fire of the mind. Here we deal with the simplicity of providence, with fate's course of events, with unexpected occurrences, with divine thought and foreknowledge, and with the freedom of will. You yourself know how weighty these questions are, yet since it's also part of your medicine to know these things, though we're limited to a short amount of time, we'll try to consider them somewhat. But if you enjoy the delights of music and song, you must set aside that pleasure for a moment while I weave a web of arguments for you. As you please, I said. Then, as if setting out on a new beginning, she explained in this way. The origin of all things, and all growth of beings with changing natures, and all things that are moved in any way obtain their causes, their order, and their form from the stability of the divine mind. The mind, settled in the citadel of its own simplicity, has determined many means for accomplishing its purposes. The means that is viewed in terms of the purity of divine intelligence itself is called providence. When we speak of things that are set in motion and arranged, the means has been called fate in the past. And anyone that can see these terms are different if he looks at the nature of each of them. Providence, which arranges everything in the divine power of reason itself, establishes in the highest ruler of all things. But fate is the arrangement inherent in whatever is set in motion, and it allows providence to connect everything with its proper order, for providence encompasses all things equally, no matter how different they are. But fate sets in motion individual objects that are disturbed according to space, form, and time. This unfolding of the temporal order, which is unified through the foresight of the divine mind, is providence, but the same union arranged and set in order in time is called fate. Although these two concepts are separate, one depends on the other, for the order of fate proceeds out of the simplicity of providence. Just as the craftsman has in mind a model for the thing that he is going to make, when he executes the work and leads through its stages of progression, the object that he has preconceived simply in a moment, so God, with his providence, permanently and at one time disposes the things to be done. By fate, he tends to those very same things individually throughout time. Therefore, whether fate is carried out by some divine spirits as its servants, or by the world's soul, or through the service of all nature, or by the heavenly movement of the stars, or by the power of angels, or by the various skills of spirits, it is certain that providence is the immovable and simple plan for divine things, and fate is the movable interlacing and temporal outline for those things that divine simplicity is determined are to be done. And so it comes about that all things subject to fate are also subject to providence, to which even fate itself is subject, but some things that are placed under providence lie above the course of fate. These things, fixed firmly and closely to the supreme divinity, move outside the ordering of fate's motions. It's as if circles were spinning around the same axes. The innermost circle moves toward the simplicity of the center and serves as a sort of axis for the others located beyond it, around which they will turn in a larger orbit. The further away the circles are from the unity of the center, the more they extend into a larger space. But if anything is joined with the middle and has a share in it, it is forced into simplicity and ceases to spread out and dispersed. In a similar way, what departs further from the supreme mind is wound up in greater links of fate, and the more a thing seeks the center of things, the freer it is from this fate, the more nearly it seeks the center of things. And if it clings to the stability of the celestial mind, it does not move, and it also surpasses the necessity of fate. Therefore, as reasoning differs from understanding, as that which is produced differs from that which is, as time differs from eternity, and likewise a circle differs from its center, so the moving course of fate differs from the unchanging simplicity of providence. This course moves the sky and stars, and orders the mixing together of the elements, and transforms them in their successive changes, and it renews these very things as they arise and die through similar progressions of seeds and offspring. The course also binds the actions and fortunes of men by an unbreakable chain of causes, and since this chain has its origin in immovable providence, it is necessary that these causes themselves be unchangeable, and this succession restrains with its own changelessness the things that are changeable and would otherwise flow forth without restraint. So it happens that the limits imposed on each thing dispose it and direct it towards the good, although to you humans who aren't able to understand this order, everything seems confused and disturbed. There is nothing that is done for the sake of evil, not even by wicked men themselves, for as we've shown conclusively, perverted error leads them astray as they seek the good, and the order proceeding from the divine center does not at all turn them aside from their origin. Now, you will say, can anything be more confused and disordered than for good men to have things turn out well at one time and badly at another, while bad men obtain both the things they want and the things they hate? But do you really think men have such integrity of mind that the ones they judge good or wicked must necessarily be the sort of men they are believed to be? It is in this very thing that men's judgments are in conflict, those that some consider worthy of reward, others consider worthy of punishment. But let's suppose someone were able to discern between the good and bad men. Would that make him able to look into men's souls and see the inner temper of their being, as we speak of the soul in union with the body? A man who doesn't understand finds it strange and wonderful that sweet things agree with some men who are healthy, while bitter things agree with others, or why one sick man is helped by gentle remedies and another by harsh ones. But a physician who understands the ways and natures of health and sickness isn't amazed at all. And what else is the preserver of good and the averter of evil but God, the guide and physician of souls? He is the one who looks out from the lofty watchtower of his providence and sees what is best for all and works out what he knows is suitable for them. He occurs the greatest wonder of the ordering of fate, when a knowing God works out the things that the ignorant wonder at. Now, to touch on a few examples of divine profundity that the human mind can comprehend, look at a person you consider most just and devoted to righteousness. Providence that knows all sees things differently. Our friend Lucan noticed that the winning side was pleasing to the gods, but the losing side to Cato. So here, when you see something happen that isn't what you expected, it seems to you to be twisted confusion, but it's part of the proper order of things. Now suppose there were a man so good in his morals that both divine and human judgment agreed about him, yet he has little strength of soul. If any trouble should come to him, he might stop practicing his virtue, since it failed to secure his good fortune. The wise judgment of God spares him from suffering if adversity would harm him, since he is not suited for it. Suppose there is another man perfect in virtue and holy and close to God. Providence judges it unthinkable for him to be touched by any adversity, even bodily illness. For as one man more excellent than I said, the heavens didst build the body of the holy man. But if often happens that supreme authority is given to good men, so growing wickedness can be checked. To some men, Providence distributes a mixture of good and bad fortune according to the nature of their soul. Some Providence troubles, so they won't be spoiled by a long period of happiness. Other Providence vexes with hardships, so they can strengthen the virtues of their souls by the use and practice of patience. Some fear too much the things they can endure, while others do not take enough thought for what they can't endure. Providence uses sorrows to teach these men to understand themselves. Some men have paid the price of death and bought the name of honor in this world. Some men, undefeated by torments, have offered to others an example that virtue is not conquered by evil. And there can be no doubt how rightly and carefully ordered and how beneficially these things turn out to men. And the fact that both desirable and undesirable things happen to evil men occurs for the same reasons. About the sorrowful things no one is surprised, since everyone thinks that wicked men deserve evil, and indeed their punishments deter others from crime, and then also improve the ones who suffer them. The joys of evil men, on the other hand, provide a good example to virtuous men of how they should judge the kind of happiness they often see falling to the wicked. And along these lines, I think something similar happens if someone has such a headstrong and violent nature that poverty might drive him to crime. Providence offers a cure for his disease by providing him with money. Another man, she continued, looking at his conscience stained with wickedness, might become frightened as he compares his conduct with fortune's, fearing that he will suffer the sad loss of what he has been happy to possess. Therefore he will change his ways and abandon his wickedness, fearing the loss of his good fortune. A happiness that is enjoyed unworthily has hurled others to a ruin they deserve. Some men are given authority to punish others, so the good can be tested and the evil punished. For just as there is no partnership between good men and evil ones, so even the wicked themselves cannot agree with each other. How could they, when each one even disagrees with himself? Their very wickedness rips apart their conscience, and they often do things that they later realize they should not have done. And so it happens that highest providence often provides a great wonder in having bad men make bad men good. For some men, when they think they suffer injustice from those who are worse than they, burn with hatred at the harm they receive, and they return to the fruits of virtue, since they are trying to be unlike the men they hate. For only divine power, to which bad things too are good, can use these bad things and bring about some good effect. For a certain order embraces all things, so that what departs from the order assigned by reason can still fall back into another order. Nothing can happen by accident in the realm of providence. Let this be enough to consider that the same God who is the origin of all nature disposes all things and directs them to the good, while he moves quickly to keep all things that he produces in the likeness of himself, and he eliminates from the boundaries of his kingdom all evil by the course of the necessity of fate. And so it is with all the evils that men think are abundant on earth. If you look at how Providence disposes them, you wouldn't consider them evils at all. But I see that you have been burdened for a long time now by the weight of this topic and worn down by the length of this explanation, and that you are looking for some sweetness of song. Take this drink, then, so you can be refreshed and strengthened for the rest of your journey. Metron 6. If you, clever, want to understand God's law, to discern with a pure mind, then look to the heavens' heights. There, in a just treaty with the universe, the stars keep their ancient peace. There, the sun, ignited in red flames, impedes not the moon's cold rotation, nor does Ursa, who bends her rapid course about the highest pole of the earth, desire to sink her flames into the ocean. She observes the stars submerged as they fall into the depths of the sea, always, with time's measured succession. Vesper announces the dark of the evening, and Lucifer returns the kind day. Thus, in turn, love renews the eternal course. From the star-filled shores of the sky, the discord of war is banished. Here concord tempers in fair measure the beginnings, so that the struggle of the wet yields in turn to the dry, and winter cold joins faith with the sun. Its hanging fire rises on high, while the earth settles with ponderous weight. In warm springs comes the flowering time. From this same cause breathes forth fragrance. Hot summer dries the grain, autumn returns, heavy with fruit, and falling rain waters the winter ground. These measured portions nourish and provide all that breathes life on earth. He creates who seizes and takes away the same. In the final setting rises the first beginning. All the while sits the Creator on high, guiding the universe, directing the reins, King and Lord, beginning and source, law and wisdom, arbiter and justice. That which he impels goes into motion. He steadies and prevents from wandering, for unless he summons their path with direction, compelling their winding paths back onto course, that which is contained by stable order would split, separated from its source. Here is love, common to all things, and they seek to hold their end, the good, for in no other way are they able to endure, unless the cause which gave them being fetches them back in love. 7. So now, she continued, do you see what conclusion follows from all these things we've said? What? That every kind of fortune is completely good, she said. And how can that be? I replied. Listen, she said. Since all fortune, either pleasant or bitter, is given to reward or test the good, or to punish or correct the bad, it is entirely good, since it is either just or useful. Yes, indeed, I said, your conclusion is true, as I consider what you taught me a little while ago concerning providence and fate, an opinion based on solid arguments. But might we not also consider this among the conclusions you set forth a while ago as impossible to believe? How so? She said. Because men commonly claim, indeed very often, that the fortune of some men is bad. And so do you want to agree with what men commonly say for a while? She said. So we don't seem to depart from the general consensus, so to speak? As you wish, I replied. Now don't you consider whatever is useful to be good? Yes, I replied. And a fortune that tests or corrects someone is useful. I agree, I said. Then good? Of course. But this is the fate of those who are firmly positioned in the virtue and wage war against the difficulties or turn from their vices to seize the path of virtue. I can't deny it, I said. What about a pleasant fortune that is given to the good as a reward? Surely the crowd wouldn't consider that bad, would they? Not at all. They would consider it good, and so it is. What about the other kind of fortune, the one that's harsh but restrains bad men through just punishments? People would not call it good, would they? No, indeed, I said. They consider it the worst fortune they can imagine. But make sure we don't do something completely illogical by following the opinion of other people. What? I said. From these things that we've concluded, she said, it is clear that the fortune of those who either possess virtue or pursue it or acquiring it is entirely good, whatever it is, and that it is all bad to those who remain in wickedness. This is true, I said, although no one would dare to admit it. So then, she said, a wise man shouldn't be upset when he has to battle with fortune, just as a brave man mustn't complain when the cry of war breaks out. For to one of them difficulty is the means of increasing his glory, and to the other the means of shaping his wisdom. And so we call it virtue, because a virile man fights and wins against adversity, for you who are progressing in virtue have not come to wallow in pleasure. In your soul you're engaged in a bitter battle with every kind of fortune to make certain it won't weigh you down when it's bitter or corrupt you when it's pleasing. With unyielding strength, take the middle road. Whatever remains below or passes beyond thinks little of happiness and does not have a reward for its toll. You have in your hands the ability to create the kind of fortune you want, for every fortune that seems harsh, unless it tests or corrects a man, punishes him. Metron 7. Atreus' son, after warring 10 years, atoned for his brother's emptied bed. He bought wind with blood to sail the Greek ships, put his fatherhood aside, and as a priest made a pact with his daughter's throat. The Ithacan mourned comrades lost to the belly of the cruel Polyphemus, savage Cyclops lying in his cave, shrieking in rage, his one eye blinded, his earlier joy repaid with tears. Harsh labors glorified Hercules. He tamed the proud centaurs, skinned the fierce lion. With sure arrows pierced the birds, from the gaze of the dragon snatched fruit, his hands now heavy with gold. With triple chain he dragged Cerberus, and as victor served savage horses severe food, their very own master. The hydra perished, its venom he burned, the river Achilles in shame buried his face, within his own banks disfigured in brow. Across Libyan sand he stretched Antaeus. Caucasus' death stated Evander's wrath, those shoulders upon which heaven would rest, the bristling boar flecked with foam, and this last labor to hold the weight of the sky brought heaven. Borne on his unbending neck, go then, brave men, don't look back. By these ways find example, follow the high path. Earth, overcome, grants the stars. Well, it's hard. I know. I'm resentful and bitter about a whole bunch of stuff. Boy, I've been treated, right? Although, I have to say, seeing in the news that Harvey Weinstein, he's getting another trial, there's a part of me that's really, really happy about that. And I'm going to explain why. Not because I think he's some virtuous guy, but because I think every bitch that came forward, who made shit tons of money on their jobs, who went to hotel rooms with him, they knew exactly what they were going there for. There's not one goddamn job I can think of in my life that I would go to a hotel room for an interview. Not one. Not one. And while no means no, my rapist walks this earth free, even after I've had his ass in court with his shit-ass mother. Right? And the judge told me that he couldn't do anything about it. Even though I'm fairly certain that this is the asshole who's responsible for the stalking I've been dealing with for the past decade. Right? But this judge here in Santa Cruz County, down in Watsonville, doesn't give a shit about that. Or any of the subsequent women that Jason has undoubtedly assaulted. I wasn't the first. Why would I be the last? So, Mr. Weinstein, with your toothless face, I hope they get you some dentures. And I think Rose McGowan is a stupid bitch. Anyway.